Sharing knowledge and stories is why I started Telling It Like It Is. It is live. If you have any questions, plop them in the comment section. If you are watching this after the fact, do not hesitate to put your questions in there. They will get answered. I wanted to thank Community Now Magazine for their sponsorship, and really, we are promoting their event. It's a mental wellness day on December 15th. Crystal Phillips from Thin Air Labs will be there, and we're going to change the narrative around mental health and the stigmas that go with it. So the sign up, the Eventbrite ticket website will be in the comments section shortly. Sign up, come on out, and we are a collaborative, supportive community. So let's help everybody. I am excited about going back to back with Thin Air Labs. I've never done that with a company before. Andrew and I have known each other for a long time. Andrew, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Jade. I'm excited to be here this morning with you, and excited to spend a little bit of time digging into the work that we're both doing to support the entrepreneurs in the ecosystem.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I mean, we met when you were actually with Startup Calgary. You've been an entrepreneur yourself, and before I even go forward, I just want to thank you for all the work that you've done. The passion that you have for startups and entrepreneurs in our ecosystem is unmatched. And I mean, I can't even imagine how many, if you could put a number on it, how many startups do you think you've actually talked to and helped?
Oh, that's such a great question. I just kind of generalize it in hundreds. It could even be more. It depends how you might categorize that. I think about every aspiring entrepreneur with an idea as an entrepreneur and as a venture that's worth helping. There's no kind of cutoff to that, or they have to be incorporated, or they have to have X amount of employees. So you put it in that perspective, probably thousands of conversations with different founders along the way.
I know you're being humble, but I can't stress enough, the work that you have done in our ecosystem, and we're all grateful for it, and we're all benefiting from it. So a big kudos to you, and thank you.
Thanks, Jade. I appreciate that. I think it's we were talking before we jumped on here just about this. This is a community initiative, right? And it takes folks like you and I to ask how we can help first, and just put the time into building some of the foundations of the community. And the expectation is never to get something back, but I think we can all bear fruit from what comes from that.
No, absolutely. I could not agree more. So I'm going to give a brief introduction for the handful of people that may not know who you are, and then we'll get after it. So Andrew is a curious and motivated business leader and community builder. He has previously founded and built multiple ventures where he raised capital, built teams, brought products to market, while leading a number of community-focused initiatives to accelerate the development of Alberta's tech ecosystem. He is currently the head of business development and funding catalyst lead at Thin Air Labs. So we talked about your passion before, but where did this come from? So, please share your story about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I, for a lot of my life, I've been told I'm passionate. I haven't really figured out passionate about what. I think the common thread across a lot of the things I like to do and spend my time on is people. I think I'm just passionate about people and the potential of people when they're at their best, and helping them get there. I think that's probably the common thread across a lot of the work that I've done over my short but lengthening career here. So just going a few steps back there, I was I'm from Calgary. I'm a Calgary native. I grew up in kind of the interesting times in the development of the energy sector, and I remember back in I was in university at Mount Royal University, and it was maybe 2011, 2012-ish, and kind of sitting on a balcony with some friends, looking around and saying, this is a really interesting perspective, but I think we live in one of the most advantageous places and one of the most advantageous times in human history. And and then a few short years later, we had a bunch of struggles as a city and as an economy in Alberta and the region. So we kind of watched the ups and downs go through this. I watched my parents and family and close friends go through the rounds of layoffs at energy companies, and then the build back up, and I was just never that motivated to jump into that. It felt a little bit like the common path, and I was always looking for the road less traveled, I suppose. And so as I thought about what I wanted to do next, I was was in university. I was actually running a painting franchise company in school, trying to apply some of my business skills into a real world environment, which was a great experience just to kind of learn the ropes of how to build a business, what cash flow management looked like, what break even was, all of that sort of stuff. But I took one really important class in Mount Royal that changed my life. It was from a professor named Dr. Alex Bruton. And I can't remember the title of the class, but the premise or the theme of it was, what is the world going to look like in 50 years, and how are you going to contribute to that? And I think that really changed my perspective on what was possible with the work that you're doing. You don't have to jump in as a cog in a big machine. You can have a ton of impact by being part of an active member of any community that you want to be a part of. And I just kind of stumbled across the tech ecosystem as it was really coming together. This is back in 2011, 2012. Startup Calgary was a grassroots organization that was really just getting off the ground. And so that's, as I was going through university, I took that class. I jumped into the entrepreneurship program at Mount Royal. I never really looked back. I had maybe 2 years of school left, and I think I filled probably about 75 or 80% of my classes with entrepreneurship type classes, and some general ones that kind of supported that. Historical classes that really went back into some really interesting people that had built stuff, and an understanding of the struggles of entrepreneurship, but the impact that it could have in local and regional communities, but also globally. So anyways, fast forward a little bit, as I was coming out of school, I was working closely with the director of the Institute of Entrepreneurship and Innovation there, Ray DePaul, who's still there, but he became a close friend and mentor of mine. And he was on the board of Startup Calgary, and he said, "Hey, I don't know what you're thinking you want to do next, but we have a part-time job opening as a community developer for Startup Calgary." I said, "That sounds great." I was kind of in this point of time in my life where I just wanted to say yes to lots of things and just kind of experience a lot of things, and then make a decision about where I wanted to spend more of my time from there. And so I said yes, and that went from a part-time role for, I don't know, maybe 6 months, to a full-time role for about 1.5 years, and just allowed me to kind of embrace and jump headfirst into all of the things that were going on in the ecosystem. And at the time, there was a lot of really interesting entrepreneurs working on cool things and ventures, some of which have grown up and become successful as well. But they're all doing this in silo. And so Startup Calgary was this kind of community group that came together as a grassroots organization that said, we want to celebrate the work that we're doing together and let people know, the broader community in the region know that this is not only a viable career option, but also a way to create impact through the work that you're doing. And so did that for a little while, took on a number of different roles in kind of the community development realm of the ecosystem. Eventually, I figured, I'm talking the talk too much. I got to walk the walk, and I jumped into my own venture. I met my previous co-founder to a company called TickTix, and then SmartTix. So talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Through a community initiative that I was working on called Hack Nights, I think, way back in the day. And so we jumped into that together. We built a small prototype, which was an online marketplace for live events. We were really fascinated with some of the challenges with distributing digital or hard copy tickets for events, and kind of the economics of that. And so we built a prototype, we gained some traction, we raised a little bit of money, we kept building. And then we eventually went through the CDL program, I think the inaugural one here in Calgary with that company. And that really led me to down the path of where I am today, and connecting into the group at Thin Air, and started working with them just about 2.5 years ago now. So every step of the way, I was kind of always, working on some side projects, working on my own businesses, but also staying very heavily involved in various aspects of the community. Everything from running events and organizing people and coordinating some of the stuff that goes on a regular basis, to really digging in with founders and helping them troubleshoot the early stages of their ventures. And that, all of that experience, teaching business model canvas workshops, things like that, really led me to to feel like I'm in a good place in where I am now, and really able to apply a lot of that to the work that I do today.
And I think that's, and again, kudos to you for hanging in and sharing your knowledge now with up and coming entrepreneurs, because nothing is more important than, as you said, walking the walk and talking the talk, understanding what it's like. Can I pay my bills? Can I do that? Oh my goodness, do I have to let a staff member go? Or oh my goodness, like there's so many variables that you just, unless you've actually been there, it's very hard to understand what entrepreneurs go through. And obviously those experience led you to Thin Air Labs and putting together an impressive team to really help, not only on the financial side with the fund that you're putting together, and we had a great discussion with James last week, but why don't you share, what Thin Air does and how you guys help entrepreneurs in the ecosystem?
Yeah, I think, I had a list of questions that I was just kind of preparing some notes for that you sent over. And one of the last ones, maybe I'll skip to it, is if you had one piece of advice for startup or entrepreneur, what would it be? We'll come back to that. Don't worry, Jade. But I think, yeah, one of the things I think about is there's nothing that can't be learned in this space, but it has to be experienced. And so in my experience helping and working with entrepreneurs, you can show them, some literature, some blogs, some videos, some podcasts, all of these things that, people telling their stories. And I think the more of that you can kind of pick up as you go, the faster you can learn through experience, but you still have to go through that to really understand what it's like. And I think one of the best things to do is surround yourself with people that are going through similar things or have gone through those in the past. And so what's really exciting about the work that we do at Thin Air is we are a founder-led team. And so this is a venture capital fund and an impact service team that is led by people, that venture builders, people that have built companies from the ground up all the way through to exit. And so we have a ton of empathy for that experience and what it's like, and for the founders that we work with. And we joke as a team that a lot of the work that we do, I don't want to put a percentage on it, but it's not just kind of the pull up our sleeves and get this done for this founder. And with this founder in collaboration, but it's sometimes we jump on a call, we're trying to work through some challenges, and we end up having deeper conversations about the, just some of the challenges that the entrepreneur is going through, and there's a lot of overlap with just life in general in some of those conversations as well. And so I think that our approach is always founder first. We believe in optionality for founders and the ability for them to choose and lead the direction of their companies. But we want to design services and ways to help them that can support them. So we some of the language we use around that. What we're trying to do is kind of a city building through venture building initiative. And the only way that's successful is if the founders of the ventures that we're supporting are successful. And so they have to be at the center of the story. They have to be at the center of everything we do and everything that we design around. In terms of how we design our services, how we think about our investment strategy, how we think about the process of founders approaching us and asking for funding or asking for different types of support. And I think that's really core and foundational to what we do. And then everything we build on top of that, as long as we're keeping that in mind, is highly, highly efficient and impactful. Because one of the biggest challenges as a founder is just time management. There's only so many hours in the day, and there's a million things we could be doing. And one of our biggest roles in that is helping founders stay focused on what's important and what's going to impact the trajectory of their business, not just kind of an incremental improvement on a day-to-day basis.
No, I agree, and again, I can't stress the point that you made, that your founders helping founders, and I know that's something that we stress at Peer Guidance too, right? The same type of a thing, obviously on a smaller level, and maybe a few little earlier stage companies, but I think that's so important. And I mean, obviously, you guys kind of go to the next level when it comes to some of the programming, and I'm not talking about the funding. I'm talking about some of the programming that you have in there. I mean, we work with Denise, the grant shipper for grants, and you have a lot of this stuff in house. And you've also started your funding catalyst service, and you lead this team. So why don't we talk a little bit about that and how that works?
Yeah, it's I mean, I skipped some steps in my personal story, but as a founder based in Alberta, trying to navigate kind of all of the different funding programs available to entrepreneurs, which is really a competitive advantage for Canadian-based founders. There's a ton of government support and the ability for founders to go after some of that capital to help them navigate some of the early stages and growth stages of their company, but it's really hard to navigate. Just knowing what's available, trying to keep track of all of the different programs that are popping up and then running out of money, and like what the status of all that stuff is. So having gone through that process as a founder, I It was about a year ago now that one of our portfolio companies reached out and said, hey, we have our eyes on a couple of these programs, but like we just need some support to help us navigate this stuff and help us put together a really compelling application for some of these funding options. And I said, well, I've done that before. I think I could probably help you. But this was really a lesson in just like, let's figure this out together as we go. We were successful with that company. And then I said, there's probably other founders and ventures out there that could use this type of support as well. And so we opened up, we reached out to a few that we knew that were kind of at similar stages of their development. And sure enough, there was an appetite and a willingness to engage and to, work with these companies to help them with some of this work. And so that's really where it led from. Again, this is kind of an empathetic view. I know how hard it was. I know how much time it took, but more importantly, I knew how distracting it was when you're actually building a company, to kind of switch context over here and say, okay, well, now I have to put together this very kind of specific application and answer questions that I don't fully know how to answer because we're still validating, and all that stuff. And it can be really distracting, and it can pull a lot of time and kind of mental energy away from what's most important, which is starting a business. So we've designed this service, Funding Catalyst. We now have a team of 4 that work with, I think right now we have about 20 active projects, but we've worked with over close to 30 entrepreneurs on this and helped them pull in more than $2.7 million, I believe, in non-dilutive capital to support various aspects of their development. But we designed the service in a way that says, okay, what are all the hard parts of this process, and what can we take off the founder's plate? And what can we support founders with, and stuff that are important for them to be managing, like relationships with funding bodies, and digging into some of the material you have to create for those applications, like a business plan and a pitch deck. And how can we do this and take this approach where we provide value and impact beyond just the success or the results of an application that we submit with together. So we take a very venture-focused approach to that. And I think when you look around the landscape of this type of service and consulting services that support companies in grants and vouchers and other types of government capital and other capital, it's really it's a different approach, because ventures just don't have a lot of time and resources. They don't have a dedicated person in-house that can just focus on doing this stuff. And so we really have to kind of think about the needs of the founders and understand the challenges that they face when they're going through this, and design a service that's going to be impactful, but efficient with everyone's time that's involved.
And that's a great answer. And I think the most important part about it is we want to make sure, and it's on my t-shirt, and we talked about it a little bit before, is that you're not alone, right? All of a sudden, if you're a solo founder and you're by yourself, or maybe you have, another team member somewhere else, helping you create your tech, it's nice to have a team around you. And all of a sudden, whether you've got these people that I can run this by. Oh, here, let me send Andrew an email. Let me send Jade an email. Let me send somebody an email. Or maybe Andrew and Jade can't help you. Or you know what? I'll bet you 100% they know somebody that can help you, or somebody that went through this problem and be able to do that. So having that team around you, it's so important, and not only for the growth of the business, but for the growth of the person and the mental wellness of the person.
No, absolutely. I'm thinking back on the conversation that you had with James last week. And one of the things, and we had an event earlier this week as well that we talked about this as well. When we're thinking about and looking at investment opportunities, we want to engage with founders really early in the process, not just when I've opened a round, here's the term sheet, what do you think? Yeah. We want to be part of kind of the earlier stages of their thinking around that, their strategy around how to capitalize the business, and help them troubleshoot and de-risk the opportunity even before they get to that stage. And so our doors are always open to entrepreneurs that are working on business ideas and concepts, with a little bit of sweat equity already put into it. To have those conversations and to find creative ways to help them along the way. Sometimes that means just booking in, biweekly check-ins to say, hey, or here's my phone number, give me a call or a text when you have some questions, and we'll try to help you solve those. We don't claim to know the answers to some of the challenges that they're facing, but we can certainly be a backboard for them. We can certainly leverage our own network to put them in touch with the right people to help troubleshoot that. And when the time is right, we can also pull up our sleeves and actually find very specific projects that we can pull in other people on our team to help them execute on, as a paid service. And so But we never start with, okay, we have this off the shelf solution. This is what you need. This is how much it costs. We always start with the relationship first. And I think you're absolutely right, Jade. It's a lot of the times where people think they're stuck, they're not necessarily like they're stuck, but it's more perceived than actual. They're stuck because they're either unsure or hesitant to make a decision about something. And sometimes all that needs is a 10-15-minute conversation to chat it through with the right person at the right time. And so, we pride ourselves in offering that to founders that we're engaged with and founders that are just reaching out for the first time. And again, just trying to find creative ways to be helpful and impactful for them and their ventures. And a lot of that, especially in the early stages, when you're talking about under 5-person teams, it's all about the people.
Yeah.
I don't think that changes as the company grows, but there's a little bit more complexity there. But it's really all about, helping founders be the best version of themselves to help them execute on their vision.
And I'm seeing more and more and more of that, throughout our, 2.5, 3 years, even going back 6 years. People are there. They're asked for help. There's more. I guess less fear, more collaboration, and it's not that I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but it is such a collaborative, and I'm just going to stay with that word, ecosystem, that everybody's going to help. And I mean, there's people that I've sent to you. There's deals that I said, hey, you got to talk to Andrew. They're, they can help you. They're a bigger team. You're past where we can help you, and things along those lines. There's no. What I find, and I'm sure you'll probably agree to me and maybe put a different spin on it, but there's no this is me, I'm not telling anybody about it. And that's kind of what the CIC is about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Those community organizations, like the Innovation Coalition, grassroots initiatives, those kind of things are really important just to create local connectivity, right? The faster a venture can get to the resource, or a founder can get to the information or the resource or whatever it is they're looking for, it increases the velocity of their ability to execute. And then you extrapolate that into, let's say we have hundreds of ventures that are active in the ecosystem right now. It's an accelerant, right? So I think that's a really important part of it, kind of foundationally to the ecosystem. And that is really hard work, right? There's a lot of great people in the community that have been working on this stuff for years. Rainforest, I can't remember, 5 years old, 3 or 4.
Oh yeah, probably at least 5.
So some of these foundational pieces have been worked on for years, and only now are we really starting to see the full kind of impact of that and the potential of having a really strong, connected foundational ecosystem where everyone's kind of working together and can make quick connections for people. But Jade, to your point, it's we're not always the best group to help a founder in certain scenarios. And so the more we can be connected with other people in the community, other people outside of the region, that might be very specialized in their ability to support, the better it is for everyone, and the faster those companies grow, and the more economic impact we have as a region. So I think that's a really, really important factor in all of this is just the ability to talk to one person and then have that person can help you connect with a bunch of others. And in startup communities and some of the work that Brad Feld and his team have done over the years, there's usually, you can point to them, Jade, you're one of them, I might be one of them, of just connectors, right? People that you can connect with, and they can put you in touch with, a handful of people really quickly. And those conversations just snowball, right? As soon as you start the conversation, you're going to get passed to someone else and to someone else and to someone else. And the faster you can kind of get to the answer that, what you're looking for, the resource or the person that can help you with some of those things you're dealing with, the better.
No, totally agree. Totally agree. And I love that. We could probably talk about that for another hour.
Well, and it only works if people are coming to the table with the right mindset and a give first mindset, right? If there's always what's in it for me as a part of that conversation, then it just stalls right there.
No, totally agree. So what's next for Thin Air? Where do you envision yourself in the next, the company in the next 1 year, 3 years, 10 years?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we have a vision at Thin Air to build something that is not just like a 3 to 5 year venture. This is a legacy project that we think can ride kind of the wave that we're on right now as a community. And be a part of it and support it and help it swell even bigger. But we also think that on the other side of this initial surge of activity, which we're starting to see right now, or we've been seeing over the last couple of years, but it just continues to build momentum. On the other side of that is an opportunity to build kind of a long-standing and respected organization that supports hundreds of ventures in various sectors at the global scale. And so, that's a generalized statement there, but I think specifically how we get there is where I spend most of my time thinking about. So, as you know, and through the conversation with James, we're working on raising our Fund 1, which is coming together quickly, and that'll be a seed stage venture capital fund that has a slightly different, investment thesis and very focused on kind of supporting founders through the early stages, which are generally the most risky stages of venture development. But from there, it's like, well, what other ways, how else can we help founders navigate some of the challenges that we know that they face? And so a lot of that is just identifying challenges the same way that we did with Funding Catalyst, the same way that we did with the product traction team, which is, these at this stage of venture, these are the things that founders spend a lot of their time trying to execute on. And if we can provide a little bit of very targeted support in those areas, we can help them get there faster, and we can help accelerate their growth and development. So what other opportunities are there that we can kind of stand up service lines and stand up ways that we can support entrepreneurs, stand up maybe community initiatives to connect founders together to help them solve some of those issues peer-to-peer? I see a lot of opportunity in kind of the service line, and then anything when it comes to capital, it's like show, don't tell, right? So James has set a really great example of, I think that there's an opportunity with ventures in this region, starts making investments 4 or 5 years ago as an angel, flushes out a model that kind of backs a venture capital scale approach to that. And then I think that there's lots of other opportunities to kind of think about, additional funds that we could raise, additional supports that we could offer different entrepreneurs as they navigate that step. So right now we're kind of like very focused on the early stages. Once a company gets to the next stage, we're probably not the best partner for them, or we really try to focus on building capacity within their own team to help them execute themselves. But there's probably opportunity. I mentioned this before. It's a bit of a sticky operation because, if you're successful in helping an entrepreneur navigate the first step, they get to the next level, they're going to have a whole set of new challenges, and I look at those as opportunities. Well, how else might be able to support you with those new challenges?
No, absolutely, absolutely, and I can't tell you how excited I am to watch the impact that Thin Air Labs, yourself and James and Leah and Crystal and the entire team that's also going to be growing and adding a whole bunch of people over the next handful of years. Like it's something we need. It's going to be very impactful. And as you and I know, we're still early stages, but we are heading in the right direction. And there's many years of exciting times ahead for Alberta.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. As a native Calgarian, I just think that there's a reason people have a hard time, once they're here, finding a reason to leave. It's a great place to live. I believe in the city. I believe in the people that are here that are building this next generation of companies and ventures. And so I'm just excited, how lucky am I? How lucky is our team to be able to work kind of on a city building initiative through the development of ventures, which is all community based, right? So I just pinch myself every day to think about, even when times are tough, this is the type of work that's rewarding and the type of work that I love to do.
No, and kudos, and it's going to be great. And you tried to answer the last question earlier on, but I'm happy that you actually stopped yourself there. I was like, no, Andrew, you can't do that just yet.
Yeah. So advice for entrepreneurs, startup or an entrepreneur. I have a lot, and I love talking to folks about this. So one of my first pieces of advice is just reach out, connect with people that have been there, done that. There's people get busy and there's cycles and all that sort of stuff, but I'm always happy to take a first conversation and a coffee with an entrepreneur. So, and that's generally a good first step. I have this idea, I don't know where to start. Can someone talk to me about that? And that human connection is really important. But I think just a little bit more specifically, if you have an idea that you want to work on, you don't have to kind of label it as like, well, if I don't jump in head first, it's not a venture. Or if I don't, take this series of steps that I'm reading in this textbook, then it's not how it's done. Just start. Start with kind of, you have a vision for where you want to be in 5 years. Work backwards to understand what you have to do today to get moving on that, and just start doing things. And it'll be hard to stop because there will be a whole set of new things to do once you finish the first thing. Once you start, don't stop. And I think the most important thing that I've learned over the course of my venture journey is focus on the things that you can control, and strategize around the things that are outside your control. So just because they're outside your control doesn't mean you shouldn't be aware of them, and you shouldn't consider them when you're thinking about your own strategy. But don't get hung up on those things and let them drain you down as a founder. You have limited capacity, mental energy, and Sigma for doing this work. And so stay focused on the things that are within your control, and really focus on the things that are going to increase the trajectory of the business, not just incrementally. So, what's the one phone call I can make today that I might have been putting off that's really could impact the whole trajectory of my business, and focus on those things. There's a million things to do every day. Break it down into 2 or 3 most important things that are going to help move the business forward, and focus on those.
Great. I mean, that's great advice, and I always get great advice. And the one thing that you brought up, I love, because you don't have to jump in all, as you said, all in, boom. You know what? It could start as a side of the desk project, and eventually it can be an all-in thing. Like even talking, I'll use Men's League as an example. Both Fabian and Derek, it's a side of the desk thing right now. They've got full-time jobs, but you know what? It's still growing and growing and growing, and they're not far away from both jumping in heads first. And that's what it is. And I mean, I guess that's kind of a little plug going into, they're going to be at the Community Now Mental Wellness Day, which you can click on and get your tickets in the comments section. But it's baby steps, right? I mean, as you said, work on the little things, work on that. And that's great advice.
Yeah. I think entrepreneurs, are strategists. They're clever. They hedge their bets by de-risking concepts and ideas and businesses before they just quit their job and put their life savings into the company. There's a lot of risk involved in trying to build a high growth venture that can scale quickly. So focus on de-risking it first, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be spending 100% of your time on that at the start. Now, when the time is right, it's important that you're able to dedicate the time that's needed, especially when you're thinking about fundraising and building the company with outside capital. So just consider that. But I think of that ventures and startup ideas as kind of projects first, and then companies once you kind of de-risk some of the key components of the business.
No, I love it. And what a great conversation we had. This is one of my longer interviews, and for a good reason, right? A lot of knowledge shared today, a lot of great steps for people to, first steps, even second and third steps, there's knowledge shared today. So I really appreciate your time today, Andrew. Anybody wants more information, click on the Thin Air Labs website in the comments section, and reach out to Andrew or to myself, or put any comments in there. We will answer them. But again, Andrew, thank you so much for all you do in the ecosystem, for coming on, sharing the Thin Air Lab story, sharing your story, and helping all the thousands, as you would want to say, and I'm going to say more than thousands of conversations you've had over the last many, many years. So we appreciate everything that you do.
Jade, it's been a pleasure being here. Looking forward to staying in touch, and looking forward to all the crossover and the work that we're doing together.
Oh, absolutely. Look forward to it. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their day. Enjoy your Wednesday, and we will chat